On today's episode of Wellness on the Rocks, I sit down with a chef whose restaurants across Baja, California and San Diego have earned some of the highest honors in the culinary world. My guest grew up in Georgia before spending more than a decade in Europe owning his craft, training under some of the most respected chefs in the industry. During his time in Germany, he worked at Restaurant Vitus in Reinstorf, where he was a part of the team that earned a Michelin Star in 2000 before eventually building award-winning restaurants of his own. His restaurant, Conchas de Piedra, earned a Michelin Star in May of 2024 and was also awarded a Michelin Green Star for sustainability, while Deckman's and El Mogor received a Green Star as well. Just a few months later, in August of 2024, he opened his newest project here in San Diego's North Park neighborhood, bringing with it all the expectations and attention that come with operating at that level. In addition to these restaurants, my guest also operates a restaurant inside Petco Park, home of the San Diego Padres. We recorded this conversation in the dining room of my guest's restaurant during lunch service on a Friday afternoon. I walked into the restaurant, met him while he was working the line, and we spoke briefly before sitting down together while guests and staff moved through the room around us. So the sound you hear in the background isn't sound effects, it's the sound of a restaurant in motion, the entire room happening around us in real time. Welcome to Wellness on the Rocks, owner of Deckman's North, Chef Drew Deckman. Which documentary was this?
It's called Ingrediente. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a 7-episode documentary we did about Mexico. Came out a year and a half ago.
Is that something that you ever...
Emmy nominated.
Is that something you kind of ever pursue afterwards? I know, the restaurant life is sort of a grind.
Yeah, it wasn't really planned.
Yeah.
It was just something that just sort of happened, and it was really cool. It took us a year and a half to film it, and went to 7-8 different states in Mexico, and it wasn't wasn't a travel show. It wasn't a cooking show. It had some of that. It was more. It was called Ingrediente, or it is called Ingrediente. So it was more about the diaspora of ingredients from Mesoamerica to the rest of the world, and how many ingredients are in Mexico today that are from other places in the world. And really documenting, celebrating the artisan farmer, the artisan fisherman, rancher. Had a little bit of architecture, had some music in it, and
cool.
A lot of really cool spots in Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've read that the ingredients and the sustainability and sort of like what you put into your restaurants is like super important to you, and you're a very value driven chef. Yeah,
it's for me, but it's intrinsic for me. It doesn't. I get confused sometimes when we have to have these conversations about making responsible buying decisions and choosing ingredients that don't mess up the world and things like. Why is that not an automatic thing for everybody?
That's really interesting. Yeah, I guess because does it cost money to
depends.
Yeah,
there are times that it is more expensive. There are times when it's just a question of it's easier to make one phone call than to make 25, right?
Yeah.
Which is time, which correlates to money.
Yeah, labor cost.
Right?
Yeah. How much is your time worth sometimes?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day today.
Happy to be here.
This is your 10th lunch shift that Deckman's has ever opened.
Right.
I came in today thinking the bar would be empty and it was closed. So just I really do appreciate you taking your time to come on, the little up and coming bartenders podcast. It says a lot about you.
Cool.
So thank you. And, just in terms of sustainability, so you grew up in Georgia,
right?
And you went to college in Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, have a degree in philosophy.
Are you familiar with Beale Street?
Absolutely.
I got kicked out of a nightclub in Beale Street when I was 22.
There's, that happens to people.
Does happen sometimes. Yeah, there was a bottle of Grey Goose that me and my friends thought we could liberate.
Yeah,
and the owners didn't really appreciate that too much.
No, copy that. Yeah.
No, but so you graduate in Memphis, and from what I understand, you went down to Los Cabos to be a fisherman and a cook.
There was a lot before that. Okay. I had cooked I'd cooked in college. I'd cooked in high school, and really just kind of decided I didn't want that to be my job because it was my passion, right? And so my first gig out of college is I was working for Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
Yep.
And it was I thought I was pretty happy, and I was convinced, at least for the first 8 to 12 months or 18 months, that I was going to be enterprise for life kind of thing. This is my future, right? And a great company, learned a lot about things business wise that most chefs don't think about until later in their career, like inventory and accounting and personnel management, and all those things come later with more responsibility as you're learning as a cook. Sometimes you're concentrating, you're learning how to manipulate your hands and be a better butcher and flavors in your palate. And then once we get enough experience as cooks, somebody promotes you, and now you've got to learn really, really fast all these other things. So that was a help. And then I woke up one day and 3 years later, and was like, no, I'm going to go back to the kitchen.
Wow.
And moved back home, moved back to Georgia, worked in Atlanta for about a year, and had the opportunity to go to Europe to cook, and really thought I was going for 6 months, and ended up staying 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was this in Germany?
Germany, France, and Switzerland.
Wow.
And really, really amazing. That was my cooking school. Everybody says, where'd you go to cooking school? I just say Europe, right? Because that's what it was. I had worked in some places, but my culinary school was 10 years OTJ, right?
So you worked under some pretty serious master chefs in Germany.
Yeah.
Michelin star at Reinstorf. And guys, I have read that you worked for, chefs like Paul Bocuse.
Yep. That was cool.
Was there, he's sort of like a legend in the hospitality restaurant industry. Is there anything that you learned from that experience that you're still implementing today in Deckman's and some of your other restaurants?
It was interesting. My first real gig in Europe was in Geneva at a place called the Auberge de Lion d'Or. And at that time, it was, without a doubt, and I'd even argue it probably still is, was the highest level, restaurant that I'd ever worked in. Really just amazing. Everything for me was exponential, the vertical learning curve. And when my Swiss work week visa was expiring, the chef said, "Hey, look, your time's about to be up. Where do you want to go?" And we started talking about it. And I felt like, in order to understand where we're going, or to understand where I'm going, I needed to understand, where this all came from. So I felt like working or spending some time in a classic house in France someplace was, the way to do that. And I started naming some names, and I said Paul Bocuse, and the chef was like, I know Monsieur Paul, and I worked with him in the 70s, and literally I didn't have a job interview. They makes a phone call.
Oh, wow.
Hangs up the phone. He says, "You start in 3 weeks at on this date. Show up. This is the person you need to call." And so for me, first of all, being an American, walking into the hallowed halls of
I can only imagine
it
that.
was
looking you up and down.
Yeah.
Okay, dude.
Yeah. No, it was. And the nice thing is, I had some really great experience in Geneva. I'd already, was already fluent in French, and I knew how to work. And so quickly, I was given or earned or had some street cred just from just getting it on and just doing it, right? And being able to communicate and not standing there like, ugh,
Yeah. Typical rookie newbie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another real benefit for me going to Europe is when I went, my age, and I was 23, 24, 25, 26 years old, working next to 15-year-old apprentices, right? I had a college degree, I'd already worked in the world, and now I'm, choosing to learn this craft and was, and I guess looking back on it, was humble enough to stand there next to kids.
Yeah.
And take my licks.
I've been through that as a bartender too.
Yeah.
You come into programs that have been established, that have a team, and you're kind of new to the industry. I didn't start bartending in New York City until I was 25 years old.
Yeah, cool.
And so you're kind of working with some younger people who are looking at you like, who's this guy? And, I think there's so much culture in restaurants and bars, and trying to fit in when you come into a new place is tough.
Yeah, and each, there's a restaurant culture, if you would,
Yeah.
kind of. However, at the same time, every single restaurant has their own culture, or every single restaurant group has their own culture, and you even get like micro cultures inside that. Like a lunch shift may have a different vibe and sort of culture than your night shift, right? And then the brunch guys, they're all different anyway. And then and so becoming part of that, understanding that, and understanding how to not only embrace that, but encourage it.
Yeah, the culture of restaurants is really interesting. And like the philosophy that we put when we are on the floor is so impactful to the team, the customers, front of house, back of house. So I'm at Stout Public House. I bartend downtown. It's a neighborhood Irish bar right outside the House of Blues. We cater to a lot of the tourists, but it's also that are coming to the shows at the Symphony Civic Center, but it's also a neighborhood bar. And, just when I'm there, I'm kind of like, I run the bar. And the energy of, I think people come to at least see me and my coworkers, Mark, Dave, Adrian, Eileen, Chelsea. It's not necessarily about the pint of Guinness or the Jameson. It's like the hospitality experience and the energy that we carry behind the bar.
Sure.
And I think that's like so important when you are in this restaurant at whatever level you are at. Hostess, waiter, manager, owner, chef is like the experience that we give about the guest, and sometimes less about the product that we serve. That's how I've gone through this industry.
Yeah. I mean, you said Guinness and Jameson. Well, that's a product that you have very little control of what's inside the bottle or the keg, right? But who serves it, how they serve it, how it's presented, the smile or not. That's what makes that Guinness really special, or makes that Jameson really special, as opposed to, anybody can just go buy the bottle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's what happens between pouring it into its vessel and bringing that to who's going to consume it. That's where the culture starts and the hospitality starts.
Yeah, and it's like the creative spin that comes from you. I mean, you can you could teach techniques, but like attitude, energy is something that like anyone has control over. And I think that like the big platform, what Wellness on the Rocks is, it's about growth in the industry. And because we are an industry bar, and I talk to so many people who are coming up, and I listen to these people talk about the struggles that they go through professionally and personally. And I've always just sort of tried to, I think mental health is a really important aspect. And creating this platform for people just to talk freely about their experiences.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, it is huge.
And finally, it's because I'm sort of a dinosaur in this world, right? I'm still, I'm 56 years old, and I can still work the line, kind of thing, right? Yeah. And it's, nobody cared about how I felt or thought or, how I was doing when I was coming up in this world. And the way, especially in Europe, where it was like really gnarly, right? I mean, it was, pots getting thrown at you, plates getting thrown against the wall if they weren't right. And, just like stuff where you're like, wow, that's like, I need to go take a shower, right? Yeah. Kind of like, I just need to get this energy off of me. And so as I witnessed and experienced, some of those things, I think that we found a really beautiful balance between having that discipline and that intensity that is conducive to delivering a high-end product, at the same time acknowledging and understanding that you matter and I care about you. And if you're okay, we're okay. And if something that's happening here in this house is affecting you, then we need to fix what's going on in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, open communication.
Yeah.
I think, look, this is a cutthroat industry. It's, I often find, it's selfish at times, but I can only imagine what that was like. You're talking 1990s Germany, Michelin-starred kitchens. I mean, that's got to be like, such a different experience than what a lot of us are going through today. But you said you were a philosophy major.
Yeah.
I love philosophy. I'm reading right now. I'm reading Bruce Lee's Striking Thoughts.
Okay, cool.
And it's like totally fascinating me. And I guess why did my brain just stop working there for a second? What was I going to ask you about? Let me just take a look at my notes. Sorry about that. Oh, we were talking about the mental health in the industry. And, I'm somebody who has struggled with working behind a bar with alcohol over times in my life.
Yep.
I've gone through periods of time where I've been sober.
Yep.
And I moved out to California about 4 years ago from New York City. And I was sober then. It didn't last very long. But like I was talking about earlier, I often find that the pace of the restaurant, whether you're in the kitchen or bartending or managing and owning a bar, those stresses build up over the years. And we develop coping mechanisms to deal with these things. And I read that you've been sober for 3 years.
Almost July will be 5.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What are some of the healthy outlets now that you use that maybe you weren't doing 5-10 years ago that have helped you grow professionally, with your family, personally?
I'm really good at drinking. I went through a period where it wasn't an interdiction thing. It wasn't my wife dragging me off to rehab. It was me waking up literally saying, I think I've had enough. I don't go to meetings, although I probably should.
Yeah.
And because I think I can help other people that are dealing with some of this, and that would be the reason why. It was awkward for me socially probably for the first 3 to 6 months. I didn't want to go out, didn't want to be around people that were drinking. I still am affected by that, especially I used to be the last guy to leave, and now I'm typically part of that first group that says, hey, thanks for the invitation. Yeah, have a great night. And I'm out just because, nothing good happens after midnight kind of thing. And, you kind of start seeing the wheels starting to wobble, with your colleagues, and they've had, enough to have drink. And then, eventually one of those wheels is about to come off.
You see it differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for me, it was, I've also quit smoking. I'm coming up on a year no smoking. So when I quit drinking, I doubled down on my nicotine use, right? So now I'm not
what fills that void?
like medicated, 18 hours a day, and now I'm just chain smoking, and that was harder to quit than alcohol. And I tried 2 or 3 times, and so much of it for me just came down to just self-love and self-worth, to finally get to that point where I kind of look at myself and I go, and I'm fucking worthy, and I'm pretty damn good at what I do, and I care about me. And then it made decisions, health-based, really easy. It just, because then they're automatic, right? Of course I'm going to the gym.
Yeah.
That's what I need to be doing. Of course I'm eating right. Of course I've stopped going to fast food and eating at 11:30 at night, and and all of these things, because they all, when I started to care about myself more, all of those decisions became, we used the word earlier, intrinsic, right? It just of course, that's what makes sense. And we get back to the mental health side of this business, and any business that I think is artistic, there's some self-deprecation, there's a lot, we have this thing in this industry like Yelp and these reviews and all of these where
I have some bad ones.
Where it's like, I mean, if you start taking that stuff to heart, man, it can really get to you, right? Yeah. And you start to believe what you read as opposed to what you see in the mirror or what you experience. It has had the ability to affect me in the past. And so I really, have concentrated on yes, respecting these comments. Some of them are valid and important. We had people come in here initially and write really bad reviews saying, this is nothing like Guadalupe Valley. And I'm like, no shit.
Yeah.
Because it's not. It's North Park. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a roof and walls and a floor and we're not outside and we're not, there's not dogs and animals and birds and all these, because we're inside. And so, I guess as I've grown, has also the restaurant, right? And just, this is, it's, there's enough nasty shit out there, man, that if you're not feeling right, then it's okay to talk to somebody about it.
It's okay to express ourselves and let things out.
It's okay to not be okay.
It's healthy to do that.
Yeah.
I think we do want to, I think strength comes with vulnerability sometimes. There's a difference between complaining and expression and looking for solutions.
Sure.
Because when we harbor things, that hurts everybody involved. And as bartender, that's literally what I do for a living. Is I work at the neighborhood bar. It's not about making cocktails.
Oh, you're a therapist, dude.
I'm a therapist, literally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I've learned a lot
Sure.
about humanity, if I'm being honest, about people of all different walks of life, and I've grown into this philosophy of like open expression, and it's not about being right or wrong or left or right. It's just about, it is what it is, and like you got to flow and try to grow. It's about growth. I think life is about growth. And I can only imagine for you opening Deckman's, from what I understand, it's 2024, I think it was early May, you guys get Michelin down at Conchas de Piedra.
Yep.
And then a couple months, you get Michelin.
Right.
The biggest thing, the number one thing you could aim for, running a restaurant, owning a restaurant. A few months later, you come to Deckman's. And I can only imagine how much pressure that came with that.
Yeah, it was, first of all, really amazing to be part of the initial, the initial edition of the Michelin Guide. We got 2 green stars and a red star at the same time. It was huge for Baja California, huge for us. We don't work for awards. That's not why we show up every day. But receiving that acknowledgement from a platform like Michelin is I mean, wow, dude, right? And at the same time, how do we funnel that into this? Now expectations change. Now, the field just got, like poop, just went here, right? And I don't know that it changed a lot about how we started here. I think, I always had that intention of going back to sort of my roots in Europe and what I remember doing in those really high-end restaurants there, and it was, it was a lot of fun for about, I don't know, 15 minutes, and then it was just too much, and it felt forced. It felt forced to find people who were willing to pull on that rope with me. It felt forced to, in a neighborhood like North Park that's up and coming, and, food-wise, it's really changed. Thrilled to be here. I think it's a great part of town. probably put a square peg in a round hole.
Really?
To start with. And over the course of the last 18 months, we've changed.
Yeah.
And where we are today, what is it, 20 February 2026 is where I think we need to be.
Nice.
And it took me a year and a half. The 14th of February was 18 months. And it took me this long to figure out what I think we should be and what felt right. And it's like I used to be a golfer. I'm not anymore. But you go to the driving range and you hit 30 balls with your 6-iron, and they're just going all over the place. And then you make that one little change, and it's just like, whoop.
Trial and error and growth.
And then all of a sudden that just feels right. You don't even feel the ball hitting the club, right? Yeah. And that's how it feels right now here, which is really, really a good spot to be in.
I think that what you're talking about trial and error and growth, and whether you're running a restaurant or you're a bartender or you're a chef or a sommelier or you're creatively working, we have to try things. We have to, the ability to succeed, I've found, is in the ability to adapt and to make those difficult decisions and to analyze, okay, what's working, what's not, how do we maneuver these things? And you don't always bat 1,000. I mean, so many, whether you're on the Padres, look at some of those top all-stars that we have on the Padres. I mean, look at their batting average. They're striking out way more than they're getting on base, hitting home runs. Yeah. And to think that the restaurant industry is different than that, I think is a little, I don't know, it's a little challenging. But okay, so I have a question for you in terms of up-and-coming chefs or cooks in the industry. Do you think that in terms of growth, do you want to strive for, if you're 22, I have regulars who come into the bar. They're in their mid-20s. They're on the line. They're managing the line. They're going to listen to this, and they're going to look to your advice. Do you go for Michelin? Do you go for your own creativity? What are steps you can take growing in your mid-20s if you want to elevate yourself and maybe open a restaurant 10 to 15 years down the road?
Oh, wow. I think everybody's got a different goal or vision or desire where they, working in a 3-star restaurant is not for everybody. That's not what everybody wants to do. I do believe that having some of that experience at some point in your career is helpful, even if you're, running a sandwich shop, right? There's levels of hospitality and understanding how to treat a guest, and just the ability, no is not an option, and it's there's you can overcome anything, right? I also am a firm believer that you just need to surround yourself constantly with people who are better than you. And if you know the most in the room, it's time for you to move on. You need to, if you want to grow, if you want to get better, be challenged. If you're comfortable, you're not in the right spot. If you're like, oh, this is easy, you're not in the right spot. You're not learning. And I really think that, and it's something that I'm just now understanding at 56 years old, is having goals and having a vision for your life, and what do you how do you see yourself in 90 days, in 6 months, in 12 months, in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and putting that vision on paper, and be willing to dare, willing to dream. Charlie Trotter had had a saying that I always used to I thrived on. It's like, our goal is perfection. We understand that perfection is not possible to achieve. However, with perfection as our goal, maybe we land on excellence. If our goal is excellence, we probably land on pretty good. if our goal is pretty good, we land on good. If our goal is good, we probably land on average. So, having that, setting that mark really high, it's a steward, it's a guide, it's a Sherpa in your life, right? And I just having that vision. Where do you want to be? I'm a 22-year-old line cook. What do I look like when I'm 32? What do I look like when I'm 42? Well, when I'm 42, I want to have 85 restaurants and, sell chinchilla pancakes or whatever, and it just put it on fucking paper and then revise that and change it, because having the vision doesn't mean that's the end goal. It gives you a direction to go in. That's going to revise as your path continues, because what you're visioning today as a 22-year-old exists based on all of your experience and what you think is available to you in the world today. Next year, that vision's going to be way more expanse and way bigger, because you've now got another year of seeing and doing and hearing and tasting and experiences. And so that willingness to constantly renovate your vision and constantly renew, and I think it keeps you from being stagnant. I think as a young cook, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Nothing good comes from the easy path. That's just the way life works, man. In my opinion. And then, and I'm speaking from errors that I made as a young cook. Wait it out. Be patient. Don't chase that, because as you start to get some experience and you start to kind of move up, all of a sudden opportunities are going to start coming at you, and coming at you in a way that you're like, wow, goes to your head. And I followed the shiny object for a bunch of years, and I believe that it cut my long-term ability to be, wherever, shorter, or made it more difficult to get there. Had I stuck it out where I was 6 more months instead of chasing the shiny object, because almost every time I chased the shiny object, it ended up being shit, and then I couldn't go back. So I think it's patience. I think it's having a vision, and just having a tough skin and just getting through stuff, man. It's every day that you get through something, it makes you stronger. And I guess the last thing is knowing who you are personally. One of my rules is for me personally, is I have to be able to look at myself in the mirror in the morning, feel good about what I see, and when I get home at night, do the same thing and acknowledge that I didn't sell my soul to sell a burger or make a compromise that goes against my personal ethic. And if I can do that, it was a great day.
Yeah, and it's like about stringing those days one after another.
Exactly.
We do have setbacks, and we have bad days. We make mistakes. We get on bad Yelp reviews. But the feeling of growth and failure is almost like when you do live up to those high standards, you do constantly have this feeling of I'm failing at this when you keep taking those steps up, like imposter syndrome.
Fail forward.
Yeah, it's like if you really are growing and succeeding, you almost do have this thing that's in your head of I'm constantly failing. But what the reality is, you're just constantly reaching for higher and higher things and not settling for average.
And I think it's important, especially for young cooks and young culinary or even hospitality professionals, is understanding that growth is not linear. It's not a straight line.
Yeah.
For me at least, it was huge vertical spurts and then sort of some plateau, and then vertical and then plateau. And I find creativity to be the same. Creativity's not linear. It's like all of a sudden the machine turns on and it's just rainbows coming out of my eyes and ears, and and then it's gone. Yeah. And then it comes back on again. And then it's gone. And it's not a straight line.
Yeah. That's how I am with creativity. I mean, I was laying in bed last night, and like as I'm asleep, a question popped up. I was like, oh, I got to write this down. Yeah. And it just comes at like any points. And I think it can be intimidating with anything. Working in a kitchen or putting yourself out there and having you do have to have tough skin and thick skin. And I think the failure thing, like for me personally, I'm in my mid-30s. I moved out to San Diego because things weren't really going too well. I was a bartender in New York City. I was doing my thing, and you don't really have direction oftentimes in the hospitality industry, and you got to kind of figure that out yourself.
Yeah.
And I've actually been very lucky to work around some really hungry, hardworking people in restaurants and bars, good ethical people, because that's not always the case. But it's like everything I've learned has come from observations.
Sure.
And there's people go to bartending school, there's culinary college, of course, but like I do know a lot of really successful people in this industry have just had to figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what I every day with this podcast platform is like, I got to figure it out.
Yep. Is it just trial by doing?
Trial by doing.
Yeah.
And there's just like so many different little things in life that come up. Yesterday, I'm preparing to talk to you. I'm trying to get in the zone. My dog was sick. I almost had to spend half a day in the vet. I'm just like, oh, there's so many like obstacles, and it's like, slow down, slow our brains down, and like figure it out. Take discipline, slow, and one step at a time. And like if you can get those days over and over again, that's how I think we find growth in our life. And it's like reciprocal. The way I handle this podcast platform is the way I handle when I'm at the bar and in my personal life. And it's just like if we can get into the state of being and constant creating, and if you do that with empathy and kindness and work ethic, that's when you have a better chance of succeeding.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see. So I've talked to you. Thank you. We're not done yet, but I do really appreciate you sitting down with me today. This is an awesome conversation. I'm learning so much about, you and everything. What else can I talk to you about today? We've talked a little bit about sustainability, a little pressure with Michelin, the kitchens, growth as a young chef. Do you think today, with the way social media is moving, does that hurt or help restaurants, or do you have any...
I'm listening.
Do you have any opinions on like the way that chefs, I don't know, sometimes I feel like whether it's bartending or cooking, it's like we create to almost impress and to get the hype, as opposed to like centering down on foundational elements and like playing the long-term game. And the internet has sort of changed our thinking, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. I agree with you that it has changed a lot, the way people... I think from a guest level up, right? I mean, guests, that Instagram shot, is become more important than having a good meal. And it's something that, I'm learning more about. And if you can have the Instagram shot and have a great meal, I think that's where you need to be, right? Unfortunately, the fad, or the trend, the shiny object, if you will, back to that, it tends to lead. I also think that I think it makes things more visual and less wholesome or like filled with flavor or backstory. Or if you can make something look great, it just becomes superficial, right?
Yeah.
I see kids coming out of culinary school, and some of them don't know how to make a chicken stock, but they can do this spherification, stuff and like crap that I never learned because I was like that last generation before all the molecular stuff happened, and it was never my thing. And now it's kind of gone, but it's not. And yeah, I don't know that it's a good thing. I gave up social media in October of last year. We have a person that manages all of our accounts. So if you're texting me directly on Instagram, somebody else is answering that.
That's most cases.
It's
Sorry,
not.
yeah.
It's not me. But I understand that my Instagram account is part of our brand, and it has to be out there. The easiest way to communicate with people on a regular basis is through social media.
Yeah.
And it has importance, and it has moved the needle for us in certain cases where a certain a content creator or whatever had published something about us, and we see the needle move. It's measurable.
Does work.
It does work, and also the other way around. There's good and bad. Some people say there's no such thing as bad press. I don't know if I agree with that. Yeah. So yeah, it's a slippery slope. It's a very slippery slope. And I think definitely pay too much attention to it, and you're going to get lost.
Yeah. I think we need to focus more on self-actualization with what we're doing at work. There's the work, and then there's selling of the work. There's the art, there's marketing the art. And sometimes I met this bartender who was like a top 100. He was voted as one of the, world's best or U.S. best top 100. And there's a photo of his social media, and he's standing on the bar, and he's like, I am king of the bar. And, I went to visit that person, and I felt that person didn't necessarily have foundational hospitality bartending elements.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I looked at him like, really, dude? Like, this is, it's like we do boast ourselves and be loud. It's easy to be loud. But what I think is real is like consistency and discipline, and like, okay, yeah, you might have be in the cool Instagram video and learn how to make it look cool, or learn how to do a cool flip with your food, but like when you're closing the bar 6 nights in a row and your girlfriend's mad at you, do you still, and you're exhausted and you have a customer yelling at you, your manager's upset with you, can you still consistently do those in month after month, year after year? And I found that, I don't know, I always try to go see, I search for quality and less about flash when I'm looking to have a good meal or, have a good drink or decompress. There are some really good restaurants here in the city who focus on that. And I think that's what the consumer is looking for. And the places I think that last have figured that out.
Yeah.
It seems like you guys have kind of figured that out as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we say it a lot. It's all food, no flash. Right.
Yeah.
And it's, we've been extremely patient, allowing our client to find us. And it's been a challenge. And we're still standing here, and we're gonna keep giving it a go.
Yeah. Do you think that when you go through this industry, is it about building wealth, or do you think is it about lifestyle? Like, I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I think there's you could define if you're an employee someplace or you're an owner. It's two different ways of thinking about things. And I think it's you can separate wealth from business.
Okay.
I think they're two different things. And how do you define wealth? Is it a lot of money in your account? Is it? I would argue that wealth is freedom. wealth is time. Wealth is the ability to make decisions for yourself without having your hand forced. Yeah, the money counts, right? What's the point of having your bank account full of cash and you drive yourself into the ground, or you're an alcoholic, or you're a drug addict, or you're a miserable fucking human being, but you got a lot of money, your restaurants are full, and everybody's coming through the door, and look, man, you are the shit, and you're dying inside. Is that wealth? I don't know.
It's almost like, how long can you keep that up too?
Yeah.
We do crash. And I've learned that, the fast cash of working in a bar, but then there's the lifestyle in the late nights. And, I've worked for bars primarily over the years where they're okay if a customer buys you a shot, but I'm, in my mid-30s, I don't do that anymore because I value my mental and physical health over the sale. And I think I do see sometimes younger people who don't have that self-confidence, they can let that aspect get to them. I had a friend of mine who's a bartender here in San Diego recently. I would see this guy all the time. He's about my age, great bartender, great person, and you come in, and one day he just goes, you know what, man, my life's going off the rails. I'm drinking every day at work. I'm in this culture. People are buying me shots. I don't know what to do. And I just say, hey, man, I just try to have empathy in those moments and say,
right.
I know what that's like. Like, dude, like I try to do this. Like, if you ever want to have a conversation or come walk with me at the beach or something, let's do that. And unfortunately, that person didn't take that up. And unfortunately, that person's not working here in the city anymore.
Yeah.
And that's sort of been my perspective is like, I do see people bounce themselves out of this industry.
Yeah.
And I think longevity is such an important thing, and it's a challenging thing for people on both ends. And I've never worked in the back of house as a cook, but as a bartender, it's like, how do you play that long game? And it's discipline, and it is like that. Like the cheers of the crowd. People are like,
totally.
Taylor's the man,
Yeah.
And I can only imagine with someone like you who's getting articles written about you and this new restaurant, like how that can feed into our heads. And it's like the ability, can we handle that, stay humble and down to earth, and keep going through failures, good reviews, bad reviews, good shifts, bad shifts, is something we got to process and think about.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I wish it was something that I'd learned earlier in my career.
Huh.
I've had, I'm on my third marriage.
Wow.
And I'm extremely happy right now. And my wife Paulina has been unbelievably tolerant of my bullshit. And, becoming sober and, doing some of this work on myself has really made a big change. It took me, there were a lot of casualties to get to that point. And you start believing what people write about you, and it goes, went to my head. And I had one of my most important mentors, Madeleine Kamman, tell me, she said, when you come back to earth, you can reach out to me again. Until then, don't contact me. And it was like, holy shit, I was 31 years old. I just earned my first Michelin star in Germany. And it was just like, I thought I was better than, best thing since beer in a can. And boy, was I wrong. And it affected everything and everybody around me.
That ego is real.
Yeah.
And I see that. It's only getting worse with the social media. And I'm just like these young, especially with young men and especially women who just constantly have the spotlight on them. The ego thing is real. And you know what? It takes a little bit of self-love and forgiveness to get to that point.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that's it. I think it's giving yourself some grace, especially in the time of failure, or if you set a goal and didn't hit it but you gave it your go. Gave it your go. It's okay to step back and give yourself that grace and just say, I did well. It's not the outcome we were looking for, but I'm a better person today because of the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. There's a story. There's a person who I know who owned a bar, and I didn't watch this, but there were articles written about this person. This was years ago. They owned a bar. Life got complicated. They ended up getting into crack. Ended up physically assaulting their employees, and they got arrested. It was a whole thing. Lost the bar, everything, and you hear these stories. And I was sitting at the bar one night, and I'm talking to my friend Brant. He bartends at Barbusa. It's an Italian restaurant in Little Italy, great spot. And he's like 10 years older than me, veteran in the industry. I say, Brant, how does that happen? How do you go from being an established owner of a business, getting a liquor license, having this successful career, to going off the rails and smoking crack, and essentially almost going to jail? And he goes, Taylor, this is what happens. You're this hot shot. You have this, you get some money, you start a restaurant. And the next thing you know, you have a wife. You don't realize how hard it is to keep these things running. And what the little things that go into these things daily are, you're putting 15 hours a day into the restaurant. Your wife, she starts leaving you. She's starts seeing some other guy who's driving a convertible. Next thing you know, you're going to the local dive. You start hanging out with prostitutes, hookers, whatever. You start getting into drugs. The next thing you know, your life just spirals out of control. And it's like, that's a reality.
That was a pretty short path from being a hotshot bar owner to prostitutes and crack. That was, I think you probably skipped a couple of years in there, but that was your Tuesday to Thursday.
Maybe I missed some details or a timeline in there, but I don't know. I guess the point is that's a real story, unfortunately, and I don't know. I think that it's a slippery slope with the mental health thing.
Yeah, for sure. So
I'm just trying to I don't want to be doing that.
Yeah.
I know it's funny to talk about, but I just have a couple more questions for you. So just some fun ones. Obviously you were a private chef for Tom Cruise. Any funny stories that happened?
I don't know about that.
Okay. All right. I won't put that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was, can't really talk about it.
No worries.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
I'll edit that out. I won't even have to put that in.
I'm still bonded. I'm bonded for life.
Of course. I totally get that.
And yes, I was.
Okay.
And so you can say that.
Okay.
But there's not going to be any details.
That's cool.
It was adventure on steroids for about 2 years of my life. And that's about, it was just it was wild.
So Padres season, we're opening day's coming up. I know you're a huge Padres fan.
Last night was baseball eve, and they're probably still playing now.
Any predictions for this year? I know last couple of years, so close, so disappointing.
Yeah.
Any thoughts coming into the season?
Yeah, man, fired up. We're back in Petco Park with Deckman's at the draft and Ballast Point. Really excited about some of the new the new projects Ballast Point has coming out. It's 20 years of sculpin this year that we get to celebrate with them all season, and there's a new beer coming out to accompany the new City Connect uniforms. It'll be announced in early April, so that's really exciting. Been a fan for a long time, and to have the restaurant in the stadium for last year for the first time. Was really exciting last year, and I've been a season ticket holder for 6 years. Went to more games last year than I've ever been to, but saw fewer because I was in the kitchen.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah.
But Joe's healthy; he's back. Joe's one of our partners here in the business, which is really cool. And the beautiful thing about baseball is everybody's in first place on the first day, right?
Yeah.
And there's just this hope, and Padres are lining up really well, and Mr. Preller got his contract extended, so fired up about AJ being back for a while, and it's never over.
Yeah. When
AJ's sitting in the office, there's always a deal to be done, and anything can happen anytime. So I think Craig Stammen is going to be an awesome manager. Yeah, I think it's going to be a great year for the Padres.
Will you be at the ballpark for opening day working?
I will be.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be in the restaurant.
Well, we will come through and we will see if we can say hi if you're not too busy.
Yeah, fish tacos, baby.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Drew, thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go Padres.